Turnkey project. Turnkey projects is known as the project in which a firm agrees to set up an operating plant for a foreign client and hand over the key when the plant is fully operational. Firms that specialize in the design, construction, and startup of turnkey plants are common in some industries. In a turnkey project, the contractors agreed to handle every detail of the projects for a foreign client. At the completion of the contract, the foreign client is handed the key to the plant that is ready for full operations. Hence, the term has reflected the scenario turnkey. The know-how required to assemble and run a technologically complex process such as refining petroleum or steel is a valuable asset. Turnkey projects are a way of earnest great economic return from that asset. The strategy is particularly useful where FDI is limited by host government regulations. Besides, a turnkey strategy can also be less risky than conventional FDI. In a country with unstable politics and economic environments, a long-term investment might expose the firm to unacceptable political and economical risk. For example, the risk of nationalism or economic collapse. However, the disadvantage of the turnkey projects are, first, the firm that enter into a turnkey deal will have no long-term interest in the foreign country. This can be a disadvantage if that country subsequently proves to be a major market for the output of the process that has been exported. One way around this is to make a minority equity interest in the operations. Second, the firm that enters into a turnkey project with a foreign enterprise may inadvertently create a competitor. Third, if the firm process technology is a source of competitive advantage, then selling this technology through a turnkey project is also selling competitive advantage to the potential or actual competitors. Next, licensing. A licensing agreement is an agreement whereby a licensor grants the rights to intangible property to another entity, the licensees, for a specific period, and in return, the licensor receives a royalty fees from the licensee. Intangible property includes patent, inventions, formulas, processes, designs, copyrights, and trademarks. In the typical international licensing deal, the licensee puts up most of the capital necessary to get the overseas operation going. Thus, a primary advantage of licensing is that the firm does not have to bear the development costs and risks associated with opening a foreign market. Licensing is very attractive for firms lacking the capital to develop operational overseas. In addition, licensing can be attractive when a firm is unwilling to commit substantial financial resources to an unfamiliar or politically volatile foreign market. Licensing is also often used when a firm wishes to participate in a foreign market but is prohibited from doing so by barriers to investment. Licensing has three serious drawbacks. First, it does not give a firm the tight control over manufacturing, marketing, and strategy that is required for realizing experience curve and location economies. Licensing typically involves each licensee setting up its own production operations. This severely limits the firm's ability to realize experience curve and location economies by producing its product in a centralized location. When these economies are important, licensing may not be the best option to expand overseas. Second, competing in a global market may require a firm to coordinate strategic moves across country by using profit earned in one country to support competitive attacks in another. By its very nature, licensing limits a firm's ability to do this. A licensee is unlikely to allow a multinational firm to use its profit to support a different licensee's operation in another country. Lastly, a third problem with licensing is one that we encountered the economic theory of FDI. This is the risk associated with licensing technological know-how to foreign companies. Technological know-how constitutes the basic of many multinational firms' competitive advantage. Most firms wish to maintain control over how their know-how is used, and a firm can quickly lose control over its technology by licensing it. Many firms have made the mistake of thinking they could maintain control over their know-how within the framework of licensing agreement. Coming up next, franchising. Franchising is similar to licensing, although franchising tends to involve long-term commitment than licensing. Franchising is basically a specialized form of licensing in which the franchisor not only sells intangible property to the franchisee, but also insists that the franchisees agree to abide by strict rules as to how it does business. The franchisor will also often insist the franchisee to run the business on an ongoing basis. As with licensing, the franchisor typically receives a loyalty payment which amounts to some percentage of the franchisee's revenue. Whereas licensing is pursued primarily by manufacturing firms, franchising is employed primarily by service firms. The advantage of franchising is and entry modes are very similar to those of licensing. The firm is relieved of many of the costs and risks of opening a foreign market on its own. Instead, the franchisee typically assume those costs and risks. This creates a good incentive for the franchisees to build a profitable operation as quickly as possible. Thus, using a franchising strategies, a service firm can build a global presence quickly and at a relatively low cost and risk. The disadvantages are less pronounced than in the case of licensing. Since franchising is often used by service companies, there is no reason to consider the needs for coordination of manufacturing to achieve experience curve and location economies. But franchising may inhibit the firm's ability to take profit out of one country to support competitive attacks in another. A more significant disadvantage of franchising is quality control. Coming up next, joint venture. Joint venture entails establishing a firm that is jointly owned by two or more otherwise independent firms. Establishing a joint venture with a foreign firm has long been a popular mode for entering a foreign market. The new typical joint venture is a 50-50 venture in which each of the two parties hold a 50% ownership stake and contribute a team of managers to share operating control. Joint ventures have a number of advantages. First, A firm benefits from a local partner's knowledge and the host country, competitive conditions, cultures, language, political system, and business systems. Second, when the development costs and risk of opening a foreign market are high, a firm might gain by sharing these costs or risks with a local partners. Third, in many countries, political considerations make joint venture the only feasible entry routes. Many studies suggest joint venture with local partners face a low risk of being subject to a nationalization or other form of adverse government interference. This appears to be because local equity partners who may have some influence on host government policy have a vested interest in speaking out against nationalization or government interference. Despite this advantage, joint ventures have major disadvantages. First, as with licensing, a firm that enters into a joint venture risks giving control of its technology to its partners. However, joint venture agreement can be constructed to minimize the risk. One option is to hold majority ownership in the venture. This allows the dominant partner to exercise greater control over its technologies, but it can be difficult to find a foreign partner willing to settle for minority ownership. Another option is to wall off from a partner technology that is central to the core competence of the firm while sharing other technologies. A second disadvantage is that the joint venture does not give a firm the tight control over subsidiaries that it might need to realize experience curve or location economies, nor does it give a firm the tight control over a foreign subsidiary that it might need for engaging in coordinated global attack against its rival. A third disadvantage with joint venture is that the shared ownership arrangement can lead to conflict and battle for control between the investing firm if their goal and objective change, if they take different views as to what the strategy should be. Much research indicates that conflict of interest over strategy and goal often arise in joint ventures. These conflicts tend to be greater when the venture is between firms of different nationalities, and they often end in the dissolution of the venture. Such conflicts tend to be triggered by switch in the relative bargaining power of venture partners.